Coming up on Need to Know, today's issues of racism, police brutality, and social justice may take years to land in school textbooks. But educators and students alike are making the case for teaching Black Lives Matter in area classrooms and lecture halls. That story is next. Also on the show, we'll learn how a Rochester woodshop started after the race riots of the 60s is still changing young lives. Hear about its challenge to the community to engage and empower city teens. Need to Know starts right now. Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice. These are all young Black men whose deaths launched and continue to inspire a hashtag-turned-activist movement in our country and here in our community. Whether it's a movement you agree with or not, Black Lives Matter is a relevant and powerful force in the U.S. that's generating new debates about how we all view race and inequality. And now area educators and students are finding ways to bring these real-world issues inside the classroom. But should students learn Black Lives Matter in secondary school or higher ed? Joining me for this discussion is LaJuan Brown, assistant principal at Wilson Foundation Academy in the Rochester City School District. Chris Widmeyer, a science teacher and instructional coach for the city school system. Unique Fair-Smith, a student at RIT, and Emily Crosby, professor of history at SUNY Geneseo. Welcome to all of you, and welcome back to you, Chris.
Thank you.
So just to get us started, how do you make the case for teaching Black Lives Matter in the classroom? Because there are some, they don't understand the movement, they may not agree with the movement, or they are offended by it. So how do you make the case, considering some people say that it's a politically motivated movement and has no place in the classroom?
I would start with saying that it's something that as educators, we need to address the fact that there are significant number of students in the Rochester City School District. Most of them are Black students. And so it's relevant to their lives. And so we need to take the time and use our energy and our position as teachers to at least address it. And we need to be able to say as teachers that Black Lives Matter. And then give students the information to see what action they need to take, and teachers as well, for us to see what sort of action that we need to take.
I would say to those who fear talking about it, you have to at least open the dialogue and allow yourself the opportunity to at least talk about it first.
Is there a specific age group that this would be most appropriate for, or is this something that you would say, you know what, yes, we can open this up to middle school, high school, or college-age students? What would you say, Emily?
I'm sure that there are different ways to approach it with different age groups, and I would have better ideas for some than others, but absolutely, I think all age groups should be taught about Black Lives Matter. It's fundamental to our country, and it provides a very useful and important way of getting at key issues that face our country that have to do with, after centuries of slavery and Jim Crow and the successful, in many ways, civil rights movement, we still have fundamental inequality based on race. And Black Lives Matter is something that's relevant, it catches students' attention, and provides a way to understand that, or to begin to look at that larger history, whether we're talking about voting rights or segregated housing, segregated and unequal housing. For example, most students they look around and they see communities that are predominantly white or predominantly African American, people of color, and they think that that's sort of by choice. And it's a good way to help students begin to understand that, no, these patterns were created not just that the federal government actually created many of the policies that led to these separate communities. So that's just one example, but I could go on and talk about more. Don't want to take up too much space.
Unique, I want to ask you, what types of things, you're our young person, our young voice here today, what types of things would you say your peers want to know about? What will engage them in these conversations about Black Lives Matter, about police brutality, the criminal justice system, racism, that type of thing? When we look at this issue, what do you want to talk about in the classroom?
I would say one thing that's really necessary is kind of the understanding and context of the situation, because concepts like police brutality and racial discrimination, they're not new. Every household at some point, unless they live under a rock somewhere, they're very familiar with the concept, but not necessarily the specifics of it. So being in schools and college and having the opportunity to really learn about these things and the historical context, I think that's most important. And I think along with that, one thing we can learn is really have that this isn't necessarily a new problem, that the Black Lives Matter movement, while it is a relatively new movement, the situation and the issues they've been dealing with have spanned decades. And learning that context of it, you really, if you want to make a change in the world, understanding that you're not necessarily reinventing the wheel as much as you are picking up the baton, it really lets you act more effectively, I think.
You know, if I could follow up, I agree completely on the importance of context, but I think one of the other things, and you touched on it at the end there, it's important for students to know that young people like them have played really crucial roles in moving social justice forward in our country. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I emphasize in teaching the civil rights movement, which is my primary field, is the importance of ordinary people in acting. Mm-hmm. Our students have this picture of a Martin Luther King-led movement, and they think that they have to wait for another king to come and lead them. But in fact, young people were on the front lines of the civil rights movement, always pushing things forward. And so I think that's another important thing that connects the history to today's movement. But students, even students, Geneseo has a predominantly white and somewhat economically comfortable student body, and it might seem alien to students coming into class, but when they learn that ordinary people, that young people have taken the lead historically and are doing it again today, they leave class feeling like they can actually have some impact on their own lives.
So I want to jump on that. How do we have these conversations then so that they, in class, so that they are inclusive? And by that I mean that if we're looking at a predominantly or all-white classroom with a few black students, the few black students aren't selected as the experts. Or if it's an all-white classroom, they want to hear from their teachers, because in Monroe County they're predominantly white, about how they feel about these issues with Black Lives Matter. I'm just trying to figure out, how do we make these conversations more inclusive?
I think it is a really challenging thing to do, and it has to be very conscious. I think in the Rochester City School District, our focus on restorative practices gives us a lot of tools, that having conversations in a structured way is very important. And then there's also tools out there. Teaching Tolerance publishes a document called Let's Talk, and they have a webinar around it. And it's about talking about racism, and it starts with teachers doing a self-evaluation of their own bias, and then gives them tools and training so that they can have these conversations. But you're right, it is a very challenging thing to do, but we have to take the steps to get there and enlist the help of experts.
Yeah. And I would also have to imagine that the teachers need to be taught how to teach Black Lives Matter, because there are a lot of layers to this movement that I think people don't realize. And Lowen, how do you do that? Is there a way to make sure that the teachers are all on the same page to a certain extent?
To jump on what Chris said, with our initiative in the Rochester City School District with restorative practices and doing the peace circles, that's an excellent way of training adults of how to communicate with students about sensitive subjects, and also making sure that teachers have the right training, are exposed to the literature in regards to Black culture, are all different things that can help support them in dealing with instructing students on Black Lives Matter.
Well, I know we've got events taking place, and I want to jump on this before we lose time. Emily, in April, SUNY Geneseo is doing a special event for MLK Jr., and you are bringing together 3 civil rights activists, a Black Lives Matter organizer from Buffalo, plus someone from the white group showing up for racial justice. Explain the concept by this, and if you can, in a short period of time, please.
I try to bring civil rights activists who were on the front lines that people don't know about to Geneseo for King commemoration as a model for this ordinary people. And this year, the 3 women who are coming are going to be in this intergenerational multi-generational panel with current activists, and we did one of these before. It's very helpful for students in sort of connecting with people who made the history and are making history, but also to understand the differences between generations. They really appreciated hearing the conversation as they talked about different strategies, different priorities, and so it helps emphasize the links between the movements.
In Rochester, Chris, you've been working on this, and Lawan, I understand you as well. A day of understanding to affirm that Black Lives Matter at school. And this is really to generate discussions among schools throughout the county, Monroe County. Talk a little bit about the mission behind this day.
So the mission is to make sure that we are speaking up. So that you spoke about the standing up for racial justice, that, you know, the silence is, you know, sides with the oppressors. So we have to make sure that we are addressing the fact that there is systemic racism in our society, and that teachers are part of that, whether they don't understand the roots of the systemic racism and things like redlining. But then also, you know, when it comes to the school to prison pipeline, that we need to make sure that we are acting in a way that's conscious and empowering.
Yeah.
And so our mission is to get dialogue going that leads to action. And we wanted to make it flexible enough that teachers and schools and organizations could get involved in whatever way it worked for them. You know, before we came on, we were talking with Unique about how that might look at RIT or Geneseo and our schools, and Lawan can talk a little specifically what's going on at her school.
Just before I just want to make sure I bring you into this, Unique. Have you had these conversations yet in school, in class? Have you talked about Black Lives Matter in any of your classes as of yet, or is this something that you are working to get into more of your classes? I'm curious to know.
It does lean a bit towards myself kind of bringing up the subject matter. In my classrooms, I haven't really spoken about it, but in a lot of community groups and clubs at RIT, they've gotten more involved. More recently, we had an art history project on contemporary art, so I did a project on the performance art used in Black Lives Matter protest, and that was pretty much a kind of eye-opening for some of the students and teachers who hadn't really focused on or even talked about the Black Lives Matter movement. And I'm glad that discussion happened, and ideally, we're working to encourage that.
To find ways to go about doing it. I know everyone at this table has, to some degree, either participated in these conversations in class, worked to help generate these types of conversations. How are they going so far? Are they effective?
Currently at my school, we're reading a book called White Folks Who Teach in the Hood, and the Rest of Y'all Too by Chris Edmond. And it's a group of 25 teachers involved in a collegial circle. And I would say that every individual is engaged and wants to make a difference. And one of our goals is to actually go out into the community and do various field trips in the community so we can learn where our students are coming from. And the question that we're asking is, do your classrooms reflect the students that you teach? And that's the challenge, to go and figure that out.
Well, an interesting discussion for sure, and a special thank you to all of my guests for joining me for this. Here on Need to Know, we will be following the event, A Day of Understanding to affirm that Black Lives Matter, and also SUNY Geneseo's Martin Luther King Jr. commemoration, both taking place in early 2017. So stay tuned to WXXInews.org for more details. From ancient Egypt to modern times, the skill and art of woodworking continues to hold a place in society. And as I recently learned, if anything, it's a craft with benefits that might far outweigh what you'd expect. At least that's the case for one local woodworking program, which has been teaching teens not only how to build furniture, but also character, personal value, and respect. Take a look.
It's fun looking for stuff like this. This is something that I did with my dad when I was little.
It's not rare to find James Smith cruising down the streets of Rochester, searching for tossed out and soon to be forgotten household items.
I'm looking for hardwood furniture, things that can be repaired, that doesn't have too much damage or water rot in it, mold. As I can see, a lot of this is veneer. You see the veneer on here?
But for James, saving and rebuilding the tossed out and forgotten, mere curbside throwaways, is about much more than furniture.
They get so much of, you're never going to be anything, you're never going to amount to anything, and no one takes that extra effort to say, you can do that, you can be that.
I want to put this strip in here to cover this up.
James is referring to these kids and the many who came before them here at a place called St. Michael's Woodshop.
I never thought that this would be something to really take on because I'm a girl. And when I tell people, they're like, a wood shop, a girl? And I'm like, yeah.
You gotta bring it over more, about right here.
Make no mistakes, woodworking in this era is a gender-neutral job. And young woodworkers like Samaya Mohammed are quick to point that out.
I did nativity sets like that with little angels and hearts, birdhouses, jewelry boxes, little chest cases that you could put stuff in, board games.
You could call this woodshop a quiet force in the community with a strong team of volunteers who keep the operation running. This after-school and summer work program is for high school students. James, the executive director of St. Michael's Woodshop, says there is a stipulation. Teens who apply or get referred must be in need of a little sanding, as opposed to those who are already polished.
We don't want you to be a perfect student because we want to mold you. We want to help you build character. So we try not to take perfect students. We want fork of the road where we can kind of build, and work with you. I was a troubled teen. I've been on the streets. I've been in the prison. I've done all of the things that these kids probably will avoid, hopefully, and this is why I feel like I'm in a position to help them avoid those traps.
Make sure you hold it like a pencil and just like you're writing.
When I first came here, I wasn't a bad kid, but I never took anything seriously. And he basically put me aside one time and he just set everything straight and saying that playing around all the time won't get me too far. I took that to heart and basically bettered my ways from that.
Operating for nearly 50 years, St. Michael's Woodshop is still fulfilling the mission of its founder, the late Sister Patricia Flynn of the Sisters of Mercy. Flynn saw the program as a way to offset the civil unrest in the city after the race riots of the 1960s. It was a way to bring together at-risk teens and help them learn a skill, gain work experience, and develop a mutual care for others.
Good.
You see the wood shop and you see all of the woodworking, but the main focus of this ministry is the life and character skills.
Today, we're going to talk about words that lead to positive behavior.
We learned about how to budget our money. Like if my mom needed something, like $10 or something, I would give it to her because I know how it is. I did a paper of how it's hard and how you got to pay bills. We're learning slowly how to be adults, how to be mature about things, and how to understand how the world works. Not only just coming in and he's putting a project in front of us and say, well, here, go do it. It's not like school. And it's teaching us how to be young adults, and it's teaching us how to have respect for people.
There's a shared sentiment among James, the young woodworkers, and the dedicated volunteers. St. Michael's Woodshop is a family, rebuilding dreams and redirecting young lives.
There's so much violence, there's drugs, there's peer pressure, there's bullying, there's all of these elements that they have to deal with. They don't know when it's coming, they don't know where it's coming from. They know here that they're safe.
We're building, we're becoming great. And the more kids we can get in, the better things will be.
So what makes St. Michael's Woodshop work? What's contributed to its longevity? And how can community members start their own efforts to engage and empower city teens? Joining me at the table to help answer these questions is James Smith, Executive Director of St. Michael's Woodshop. Joseph Mack, a former Woodshop student, now board member for the program, and David Kepler, a volunteer and mentor with St. Michael's Woodshop. And welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So we thoroughly enjoyed producing and editing that video piece, but I don't know if there's a story out there that can really fully convey the impact of St. Michael's Woodshop on this community and on the young people. And the motto of the Woodshop is building from the inside out, and that is not easy to do with teenagers. So I have to ask, How do you do it? What do you think makes it work? And James, I'll give that to you.
Well, I think when you show them that you care and that you have a stake in their future and you really want something for them that maybe you didn't have for yourself, or maybe you see other teens around the city and you say, wow, you know, you wish you can help them all. But for the few that you can reach, you just have to care. You just have to listen. I try to listen twice as much as I speak to them, because they have a lot to say. And, you know, they need an ear and they need someone to be their voice.
Well, Joseph, years ago, and I won't age you, but you were a youngster involved with the woodshop. So fast forward to today, now you're a board member. Why did you sign up for this program years ago when you were a teen?
Well, back in the '67, I think, when it started, I was going to a little center which was started by the nuns. In the center, we were all going there after school. So then they said, hey, we got some kids that's actually are teenagers that need to be separated from the little kids. Well, I was one of the little ones, but my brothers were the teenagers. So Sister Pat came along and started a wood shop. She took the teenagers, started the wood shop. So the deal was at 12 years old, you can go with the older guys. I was way too young. So, but my brothers were there. Everybody wanted to do what their older brother's doing. So I wanted to go too. I would go there and bug her about coming. Nope, too young. She ended up letting me come a little earlier. And I think in '69 or '70, I started going there. And I would go there and just learn woodwork, sanding. First thing you gotta do is learn how to sand.
It's interesting. I talked to some of the students, and one young woman said to me, I found myself through this program. She said, I learned how to be comfortable in my own skin here. In what ways would you say, maybe that you weren't expecting, that you believe the program benefited you?
Well, everything with Sister Pat that founded the organization, she has strategies. So her strategies was not just to get you doing something after the school. Her strategy was, you're gonna walk out here with something that's gonna help you in your future. You're gonna learn how to handle money. One of her things she always said, you give and it will come back to you. And that's something that she always told me. Always give, because it's gonna come back. And I believe that, and it worked.
Well, David, during my visits to the woodshop, James stressed that the volunteers and mentors like yourself really are the heartbeat of the operation. And I wanted to know what made you sign up, because this is an unpaid gig, and you know that you're signing up to work with teens. And as James mentioned, you know, these are not the polished kids. Some of them are on probation. Some of them have had challenges at school and home. So why do it?
Well, I was going to say, Joe mentioned Sister Pat, and I think I had a lot of influence through nuns in my life. I went to grammar school taught by sisters, and my family also taught about giving back through the faith experience of life. So that's probably why I do it. It's challenging. I work with teens, like you said, can be challenging, especially when they're not of my culture or ethnic background. But the kids get to know me, I get to know them a little bit at a time. It's not, every day is different, and your experience is positive, hopefully. Sometimes it's not, but you come back again because you don't give up on these kids.
So on the one hand, you're leaving an impact on them, but I would have to imagine that they too will leave an impact on you.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I know I got to get out of my comfort zone with these kids, because they're not like I say my teens were, you know, they had troubles too, but there are different troubles for these kids probably than what my kids faced, I would say.
Well, there's this community service component to St. Michael's Woodshop that the teens you told me about, the volunteers were mentioning. You're part of a burial coalition right now, and you're designing caskets and casket handles for families who can't afford to bury a loved one. This is one of many community service projects that you're involved in. In what ways do you think for the youngsters that serving in a community, and they describe their community as this to me, they said, using their words, it's negative, not safe, not calm, a place where you have to worry, outside the walls of St. Michael's Woodshop. How do you think doing these projects benefits them?
Well, I think it gives them a sense of self-worth. It lets them know that they're worth somebody, they're worth something. And then when they see others that are in a worse position than they are and they get to help them, that's the beginning of building their character. It says, that we are going to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And, creating a mutual care for others is one of the things that we teach in our mission statement. And that's one of the goals. And once they see that there are others that need them, then they feel more confident and they can go out and feel like they want to have a life of servitude of their own.
Well, one thing, and you mentioned this to me, James, and if everyone really can jump in, you said it doesn't take much for other groups in the community to do something similar. And St. Michael's Woodshop has space for 20 young people. But you said it's really just about getting a group of teens together and letting them know that you care. How would you encourage others to do something similar? Because there is such a need. And you said to me, James, you said, we talk about the problems we're faced with, but no one was willing to be a part of the solution. So what would be some things that you would say to people watching this to say you can be a part of the solution?
Yep. I would say, we talk about it a lot. I would just say be about it. I mean, go out and at least try. There are rec centers, there are community organizations where you can just go out and volunteer. Sit with the kids, get to know them, talk to them about some of their problems. A lot of teens, they feel comfortable with sharing their story, but we don't know because we kind of block them out. And we have this picture that we painted of the teens, and everyone's not like the picture that we paint. And we have to talk to them to get to see them, get to know them.
And I think just like the wood shop focus on woodworking, there's other things that can be done with automotive, construction. There's other programs that can be developed.
All right, well, I appreciate you all for being here. We're out of time, unfortunately, but a special thank you to my guests for the work that you're doing in the community. And you can learn more about this program online. We've got the website on your screen, stmichaelswoodshop.org. And that's it for this edition of Need to Know, Rochester's news magazine. I'm your host, Helen Banduty-Hofer. Thank you for watching tonight, throughout the weekend, and online at WXXInews.org. Be sure to join me again next Thursday right here on WXXI TV.